Welcome to Business Innovators Radio, featuring industry influencers and trendsetters sharing proven strategies to help you build a better life right now.
Welcome to the show. I'm your host, Ken Sherman. Today on the show, we're talking with Kate Nethercott Wilson. Kate owns Kamaji Tree, a coaching, hypnotherapy, holistic health and consulting practice that works with people of all ages. And today, we're going to find out how she came from a small town in Australia to become a world explorer and advocate. Welcome to the show, Kate.
Thanks, Ken. It's great to be here.
Kate, tell us about your perfect prospect. Who is it that you like to work with?
Well, if you're a human being and you have stuff going on or you want more out of life, then I want to work with you. So I think, there's this big misconception that people have about hiring a life coach or a therapist. Some people think that only people whose lives are in total disaster go see a life coach, or life coaching is for people who are rich, or life coaching is only for people who have major stuff going on in their lives. And people who have major stuff going on in their lives, that's often one of the reasons that they might come and see me in the first instance so that I can support them. But really, I guess what I believe is that in life we all need support. And a lot of us think that we're supposed to just go through this process of life on our own. And I'm passionate about people and wanting to help everybody realize their full potential in life. And I think sometimes stuff gets in the way that prevents us from doing that. And we all need that external support sometimes. So, my perfect prospect, it really could be anybody. It could be somebody who's in the middle of a great life challenge, or it could be somebody who just is really not sure about their purpose and direction in life, and they feel like they want to get more out of life. So anybody that wants to live a rich, fulfilling, and meaningful life, I think is my perfect prospect, because my passion is people, and I want to work with anybody who wants to get more out of life, whether they have something going on right now or whether they just want to take some steps to enhance their life.
So not necessarily in business even. It could just be some personal things that they want to do. I know I've used the services of a coach, and it's helped me in both personal and business to get to where I wanted to get to. It helped me overcome a lot of the obstacles, even mental obstacles I had that were stopping me from getting me where I wanted to go. And, coaching's really helped me. What are some of the common things that people seek a coach for?
Look, there's a lot of different things that people seek a coach for, but I will have to say that, more and more I'm seeing people come through my door for kind of 4 core issues. The first one is relationships. So a lot of people out there right now struggling in their relationships with their spouses or in their relationships with their children and families. That's a huge problem, and quite a significant number of my clients are working through relationship stuff. The second main thing is for people experiencing a lot of stress, and that's leading to anxiety and depression. The third is people battling with addiction, and I'm finding that a lot more. So people coming in wanting to address their drinking, wanting to address other self-destructive behaviors that are really not supporting them in life. And then the fourth category is really a lot of people, as I mentioned before, who are just kind of generally dissatisfied with their purpose and direction in life, but they can't really put their finger on, what's that about. And I think for me, these 4 different areas, they might seem, like they're quite different things for me to be working with people on. But I think at the core of all of them is that's really a symptom of the disconnection that we're feeling within ourselves. And I think when we're disconnected from the true essence of who we really are, this shows up in disconnection and dysfunction in our relationships. And when we don't trust the process of life, that presents as anxiety. And when we don't love and value ourselves enough to listen to what we truly want, and we continue to put other people first, then this really impacts on our purpose and direction in life. And, we didn't just wake up one day feeling disconnected. I think this is happening over time. And I think that all of us have limiting thoughts and beliefs and programs and patterns that prevent us from living life the way that we want to live. And these present themselves in relationships, and they come up when we're thinking about our purpose and direction. So what I try to work with people on, no matter whether they're coming in for relationship issues, anxiety, depression, addiction, is, my goal is to help people to wake up and remember who they really are. I want them to remember their worth, help them to cultivate self-love and acceptance, and really help them to remember that they are enough, just as they are.
Kate, you mentioned that relationships is one of the common things that people come in to see you about. Can you tell my listeners how it is you approach working with people on relationship issues?
Yeah, thanks, Ken. So my approach to working on relationships is possibly a little different to what people might think. A lot of people think relationship, marriage, couples counseling, they're going to go in and see their counselor together and work through their issues. And I do that. I believe in seeing people together because, it gives them a safe space to really voice how they're feeling and to be heard by the other person with that third-party mediator. But one of my key approaches to working on relationships is that I always ask people to come in individually as well as together with the other person in their relationship. And this is because I think that we all have limiting patterns and programs and beliefs about life and about relationships that we bring into the relationships. And really love, one of my mentors told me that love is going to bring up anything unlike love to be healed and resolved. So we all learnt stuff about relationships from our parents. One of the first questions I'll ask my clients are, what did you learn about relationships from your parents? And I usually hear one of two things. One thing is, I didn't learn very much. Or the other thing is, I made a decision that I was not going to be like my parents. And then whatever decision we made and the things that we learned about relationships from our parents, we then tend to play that out in our own relationships. And so until we can understand and identify what our patterns and beliefs and programs about relationships are and take responsibility for the role that we're playing in whatever's going on in the relationship, then we can't really nurture and heal the relationship. And so this is why I really believe in spending time with each individual, because they need that full hour to start exploring their own patterns and programs about relationships. And then what role is it that I'm playing in this relationship? How am I playing that out? And that's really important because they need to be able to heal that and resolve it in order to move forward together in their relationship. And this is why, we often see patterns and programs played out from one generation to the next. And that's because, we're always presented with opportunities to grow and learn and heal. And if we don't do it, in this relationship, we're still going to take ourselves and all of our beliefs into the next relationship and possibly play out the same thing, and the same pattern will eventuate. So I think that it's really critical for anyone working on relationships to understand themselves and their patterns and beliefs and work on that so that whether they stay in the relationship they're in or not, they're going to have, a better understanding of themselves in that relationship.
So my next question is almost sort of answered. It was what outcome do you help your prospects achieve? But it sounds like you really help people be more happy and connected with their life. Is that right?
Absolutely. I mean, who out there hasn't had thoughts in their head that I'm not good enough, I'm not smart enough, I'm not enough? And I think, it's kind of an epidemic in life right now of all of us thinking that we need to do more, that we need to be more, that, we need to overschedule our lives. And I want to help people remember that they already are enough just as they are, and that they don't have to be, striving to achieve all of these things and not get any of their needs met.
That's great. I could see that'd be a big value for everyone, personally and in business. Just getting clearer about, what you really want out of life and, accepting what you've accomplished and things like that. So, Kate, I'm curious, when was it that you knew that doing this type of work was something that you were passionate about, and how did you get into this line of work?
Well, I think that I've always known, Ken, that helping people was something that I wanted to do. I've always been really curious about people from other cultures, about languages and traveling. And in fact, at a really young age, the age of 16, I'm not quite sure what my parents were thinking, but I went overseas by myself for the first time. And that, really opened me up that there was this whole world out there. Because I grew up in a small country town and kind of always felt that there was something more. You know, I wouldn't consider my family and my upbringing terrible. I think a lot of us come from functionally dysfunctional families, like most families have stuff going on. And in my case, you know, my parents lost a child when he was just 3 days old, and I don't think they ever really got over that. And so as a kid, I watched them struggle with depression and with a lot of sadness. And, you know, at the time, as a kid, I didn't really know what was going on. It was just a sense I had that they weren't happy. And I think on some level I decided that I didn't want that for myself. I wanted something more. It wasn't really until my mum was diagnosed with breast cancer that I knew that something needed to change for me. It was kind of like the straw that broke the camel's back, and I wasn't feeling very well with things, and I went off to see a counselor, and, you know, she recommended that I go to this weekend workshop, and I think that was really the turning point for me. You know, I realized that I was holding inside a lot of pain and confusion and sadness, and as I started the process of releasing a lot of that, I saw how beneficial it was for me. But I really woke up. It was when my mum was diagnosed with cancer that I woke up, and I wanted to then figure out how could I share that with other people? How can I help other people really wake up and take responsibility for their life and support them to get more out of life? Because I think that people are amazing. You know, people are my passion, and if I can help somebody, just one person, to feel the sense of relief and empowerment that I felt when I started counseling and when I started on this journey, you know, then I would be happy. And of course, over time, I hope that I've helped more than just one person. But for me, I think that people are so amazing, and life is amazing, and we are this really interesting and complex array of people. And so really just wanting to help and support people be the best that they can is, you know, just means the world to me.
It's an amazing story. Now, I understand you've traveled and worked in more than 25 countries around the world. Tell me a little bit more about what you've done and how it's impacted your coaching and therapy work.
I have, yeah, thanks, Ken. So, well, as I said, it wasn't really until my mum was diagnosed with cancer that I got into more of the one-on-one counseling and coaching and hypnotherapy work. But before that, I spent quite a lot of time working for the Australian government for the aid agency called AusAid at that time. And so all the money that countries like Australia and the US give in overseas aid and humanitarian assistance to poor countries, my job was to make sure that that money benefits women and other disadvantaged groups like people with a disability or people from ethnic minorities. And women particularly is one of my passions because you'll be surprised to know that 70% of the world's poor are women, and that women in a lot of the countries that I've worked in throughout Asia and the Pacific, they are often discriminated against, and, you know, the status of women is quite low. So they don't have a voice, they're not often in decision-making positions, and they're not able to advocate for themselves and their needs. And so, yeah, I've worked as a technical advisor, a gender and social development specialist, working on those different projects, helping to design projects to benefit them, but also other mainstream projects, building infrastructure, building schools, hospitals, making sure that that work is really going to the people that need it the most. And I guess that work has really, you know, I've seen a lot of amazing things. I've seen a lot of human suffering, but I've also, I guess, witnessed the strength of the human spirit. You know, I've seen people, I've been sitting on, you know, a dirt floor having a meeting with women, you know, in the backwaters of Indonesia, and these women don't have a lot to give, but there's always food. When you go and visit them, they always have something to give you. You know, it really gives me an appreciation of the privileged life that I have and all the things that I have in my life to be grateful for. And it's also really given me, yes, just that real deeper understanding of the strength of the human spirit and what we can overcome. And I think I bring that to my counseling work here. One of the things that I work with my clients on is helping them to see, you know, what are the things in your life that you already have right now that you can be grateful for. And yes, this is a challenging time, but you're still here and you still have things in your life to be grateful for. And it also helps me with people who come into my office and who are, experiencing really challenging moments. I know that they can get through it because I know the strength of the human spirit. So, yeah, I bring that experience, and I've just been lucky to travel, to witness how people live around the world, and to bring that sense of compassion. I've seen quite a lot of things. So for my clients, there's pretty much nothing you could tell me in my office that would surprise me. I think, one of my strengths is just offering that really safe place for my clients where there's no judgment, and just I have, I think, an ability to really see people on the inside for who they are and help them to remember who they are. Because I think we all get caught up in the story of our life, and we all have judgments about ourselves, thinking, I'm not this, I'm not good enough, I'm not a good enough mother, I'm not a good enough father. And, when people come into my office, I can see that they're much more than that, much more than the story that they've created about where their life is at. And so supporting them to see that for themselves.
Sure, that's a diverse range of clients that you've worked with all around the world. That brings an interesting perspective to someone that may be struggling with limiting beliefs, here in the States. What are some of your qualifications or maybe specialized certifications that you've attained over the years?
Yeah, well, I have a lot because it took me quite some time to figure out exactly what it was that I wanted to do. So, I grew up in a small country town, and when I finished high school, I had no idea what I wanted to do. So I went and studied languages because I loved other cultures and travel. So I first studied languages, and then I got postgraduate studies in international development, and then I received my master's in international development. And as I said, when my mum was diagnosed with cancer, that's when I went back and retrained. So I retrained in counseling and social work. And then over the years, I've done a number of different courses. I studied hypnotherapy here in the U.S. I've also studied Reiki, kinesiology, and other types of energy healing, in addition to reading, and then just working with great mentors. And I also draw quite heavily on my intuition. So, yeah, I've been really lucky. I've worked with some pretty cool people in different places and learned a lot from them, from my mentors along the way, as well as, my formal qualifications.
Could you share a story about a story of success about, and maybe an example of how your coaching was instrumental in achieving an outcome for a client?
Well, of course, I guess no one can talk about, I can't really talk about outcomes as well as my clients could, but, and I can't go into a great amount of detail, about individual client stories. But I guess, one of the things that I'm most proud of was when I first started working as a counsellor in Australia. And always when you first start out in something, it's a little scary and building up your confidence, and you're thinking, how can I help? But one of my very first clients, from when I first saw her to now, just where she was and where she has gotten to is something that I'm really proud of. So, she came to see me, was really not very happy at all, was worried about her drinking, had a lot of childhood trauma that she needed to work through, was really unhappy in every aspect of her life, not happy at work, not happy in her relationship, and just had a lot of questions, and was really had a great number of things to deal with and wanted to get more out of life. And so I worked with her, over the course of a year or two, working through each of those issues. And as I said, what I work with people to do is to release and let go a lot of that pain and trauma from the past, so that, you can see that you're not your story, so that you can sense and feel your own worth and develop that sense of self-love. And through the work that I've done with her, she's now in a happy relationship, and she herself has now retrained and is working as a therapist to support other people, because she's been through quite a number of different things in her life, and she can now bring that experience to help other people like her. So, I'm really proud of that. That would just be one example, I guess, of and that's not to say that everybody that's going to come to coaching or counseling is going to end up being a therapist themselves, but I think it just shows that, with the right support, how far you can come and the kinds of changes, positive changes that you can make in your life when you get that support. As you said, you talked about coaching is good for not just personal things, but also in business. And I think one of the misconceptions about coaching is that, it's a sign of weakness that you need to go and get support. But, one of my favorite authors, Brene Brown, she has written a number of books, and in one of her books, Daring Greatly, she talks about, the research that's been done even about leadership, and it shows that leaders who are willing to be vulnerable and seek support and to admit that they don't have all the answers, they tend to do better as leaders in business. So, I think coaching and, any kind of therapy work can actually help in a range of different aspects in our lives.
Interesting. We're lucky enough to have a client of Kate's come on and talk with us for a moment. Welcome to the show, Julie, and appreciate you taking the time to be with us. So you worked with Kate as a coaching student, is that correct?
Yes, that's absolutely correct.
And what was your experience like with that?
Well, I moved to Phoenix about 2.5 years ago, and I moved there to start a new life with a husband of mine who had recently been diagnosed with some severe mental illnesses, and we thought that going to Phoenix and having the VA system there would help him tremendously, and it didn't, and he disappeared, and I was in a very awkward, odd place in my life. I was left in Phoenix with 2 children, $200, and an odd city, 2,000 miles away from my home in South Carolina, and Kate was my next-door neighbor, and immediately we bonded. I have a background in on the day spa for 15 years, and I'm very intuitive. I'm very into the that part of the human being. However, I wasn't seeing myself the way I should have been. I was, even though I didn't portray a victim attitude, I kind of felt like one maybe, and that was coming across, and I wasn't realizing my own self-worth. And so I started spending some time with Kate with some one-on-one counseling sessions, and she read my cards, and she immediately called me out. Like she immediately called me on my junk, and was not afraid to do so, which was very interesting. And through Kate's eyes, I began to see myself as who I am instead of who I was wanting myself to be. I think the thing. She immediately recognized my weaknesses and the weaknesses I thought I had that I didn't even have, and she accepted me. And I think one of the biggest things was I was so caught up in what people were going to think, and because my ex-husband was very verbal, and he was delusional, and he had a lot of lies and a lot of stories, and he's like the squeaky wheel, and I'm not. So I was afraid of all those lies and all those stories, and Kate, I think the biggest thing for what I got from my time with her was that she immediately said, those are just his stories, and even if those stories were true, so what? That is not who you are. Even if you did those things are not who you are, period. And you have to accept that. You have to look at who you are. You can't be stuck in events and things you did, whether you did them or not, whether they're a lie or a truth. You can't be stuck in that. You are who you are. And even if those things are true, or anything you see, or even the weaknesses you see in yourself are true, it's okay. It's absolutely okay. You exist in this world as you are, and you have to realize your full potential. And through her eyes, I literally saw myself again as powerful and in control of my space and my destiny, and it made me calmer with my children and less reactive and more proactive, and it slowed me down. It slowed my inner self, my inner peace down, and she's just really extremely good at seeing through people, at seeing you for who you are rather than all the words you're saying and all the stories you have and all your past experiences. She's just really good at reaching into your soul, I guess is the only word I really even know to use, and letting you see yourself as a mirror, like through her eyes. Because what happens in life is however you feel about yourself is the type of people you're going to put around you. You're going to reflect yourself with another person, and you'll try to pick people to be in your world, whether it be your friends, your boyfriends, your even family members that you hang around the most. You'll pick people that have the the same weaknesses or the same issues as you do, and you'll try to fix them instead of fixing yourself. And for the first time in my entire life, I stopped and I fixed myself and moved forward. And because of that, like, I got this incredible job, you know, in LA. My kids are happier. Everything is better. I don't have issues around money anymore. I don't have, like, everything just kind of fell together because I realized my full potential by her. It's really interesting because I'm not always one to say she did this to me, or, you know, or like God did this, or man did this. Like, you know, I'm not one of those people, but, you know, she just seeing myself in her mirror and Kate as a mirror, like, really, really at that point in my life was pertinent to my well-being, to me making it again, being successful again. It was huge, and I owe her everything, basically. And I absolutely would recommend everyone, man, woman, and even child, because she is, even with my child losing his father, he was 4 years old, and having Kate be around him because her son and my son became friends, she really helped him as well because he went through a really difficult time. And she was that force who could see past his actions and see past his temper tantrums and see past his fear and his lashing out physically, and just a calm spirit to bounce off of, and for even him to realize it's not his fault. It's you know, this is not about him, you know, and a place for him to express himself, and she being consistent and constant. She's just amazing. That's about all I can really say. It's like she's absolutely amazing in seeing people and seeing full potential and growth and helping you look at, and I'm going to use the word demons, which she doesn't use, but, you know, I think people come to the table with demons and of their own, and ones that you may not see in another person, but we all have them. And it's like, finally, if we can all just look and say, you know what, I know this little demon is here. It's been here my whole life, and it's okay. And once you accept that demon into your life and say, you know what, I'm not going to try to control you. I'm not going to be scared of you, and I'm not going to try to hide you from the world. It's okay. We all have these weaknesses that you can call them demons, weaknesses, whatever. We all have them, and it's okay. It's what makes us different from the next person. So how can we take these qualities we have and better ourselves and use them, you know, for greatness? And that's what she is so remarkable at doing. It's helping you work through that process. So many people, you know, 30 years I've been counseling for different reasons, and, you know, I've never really had anybody help me. It's like everybody can tell you, like, oh, this, and this. There's never, ever been a person who can say, okay, well, here's a plan. Here's what you got to do. You know, and Kate is so good at that. Like, she didn't just say, I recognize this, you have this weakness, you have that, and then you say, okay, well, crap, now what am I going to do? You know, she helps you build on that and move forward. So you're really fast at it. Like it works really, really fast when it's real and it's true. You don't have to go, you know, years and years of therapy. It's like with Kate, it's like it happens so fast that it's remarkable because she gives you tools and she helps you work through those things. So absolutely, I would recommend her to everybody. And I've like, you know, I've posted stuff on Facebook already, and my friends say, who is that girl that helped you so much? And I can see a difference in you, and I send them over there because she is absolutely amazing at what she does. She's the best. She's absolutely the best. And I've been around people like her a lot in my industry, my former industry, but she's the best. She's just absolutely hands down the best at what she does.
That's a powerful testimonial. It sounds like it absolutely changed your life for the better.
It did. It did. It was needed. It was long needed. If I had met her when I was 20, there's no telling what I would be doing right now.
What an amazing testimonial. Really, I want to say thank you for coming on the show and just speaking
thank you for having me, Ken.
Kate, and thanks again for being on the show. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Ken.
Kate, what's the biggest misconception that people have about hiring a life coach? Is there something that people just always seem to get wrong when they're thinking about hiring a life coach for themselves?
Yes, well, I think, you know, I've already covered some of that, you know, the misconceptions about, your life needs to be a total disaster or it's a sign of weakness to seek support. And I think they would be the first two common misconceptions. As I said, I believe that we all need support. I myself have a coach who I have worked with for a number of years, and I find that it's really helpful for me. I don't talk to him all the time, but sometimes there might be things going on in my life where I need some additional support, and then sometimes it's good just to touch base and have that sounding board because, I want to get the most out of my life and I want to help as many people as I can, and he's a really important part of my journey and an important part of my support system for helping me get there. So, yeah, I think that it's not a sign of weakness, and your life doesn't have to be a total disaster. It can help if your life is a total disaster, of course. You're going to get benefit from it, but anybody who really just wants to get the most out of life can benefit from understanding themselves better, from loving themselves more, from valuing themselves more. And that's really what working with a life coach is about. A life coach can often help us see aspects of ourselves that we can't see on our own. And I think that can be really valuable.
So even coaches need coaching.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We all need support. I mean, if you think back to the caveman days, it took a community. We had to work together as a community, to survive and stay alive. And I think society has evolved a lot since then. But, there's so many things going on in the world right now that we see on the news every day. And I think that everybody needs support in one or more aspects of their lives just to navigate the complexity of life.
I know one of the really stressful times for people are the holidays, and we're just leading into the holidays right now. Do you have any advice for people, just to keep them sane and manage the stress and obligations they have in the holiday season?
Oh, my goodness. That's so true, and I'm quite lucky in a sense. I don't know if it's lucky or unlucky, but, we don't have any family here in Arizona, so that kind of takes the pressure off us in terms of family events and family activities. But, I do have 3 small children, and it's a busy time for us. And I think, at this time of the year, people tend to wear their kind of busyness with pride as a symbol almost of their own personal value. So the main advice I would have for people, I guess, is, put limits on what you do. And no matter how many parties you go to, no matter how many presents you buy, or no matter how busy you are enough already. So instead of automatically saying yes to everything, my advice to people is, go inside and connect to yourself. Ask yourself, what's really important? Do I have to go to this party to feel good about myself? If I say no, is that okay? Or am I so worried about offending somebody or hurting somebody else's feelings that I'm going to say yes, even if it means, sacrificing myself for somebody else? So really just go inside and connect to yourself. Think what's important. And there's the answer. A good friend of mine, she said she's trying to cut back on things in her life. And she sort of goes inside and asks, okay, if the answer isn't a heck yes, it's a heck no. And I think, we all get caught up in just saying yes, yes, yes to more and more things that we don't really want to do. We're doing it to please other people, or we're doing it because we think we should. And in the process of doing that, we're completely forgetting to acknowledge and honor and respect ourselves. It comes back to us not feeling good about ourselves. I mean, who's really the most important person that we can look after is ourselves. And if we can't look after ourselves, we can't expect other people to look after us. So I would say you're enough already. You don't have to say yes to everything. And at this time of year, it's even more important than ever to try and schedule in some moments for self-care, even if it's 5 minutes to walk around the block, or 5 minutes to get up before your kids and have a cup of coffee or a cup of tea. But rather than allowing this time of year to dictate itself to you, I think, take control, make decisions that make you feel good, and value yourself enough to say no.
That's great advice. So, Kate, I know you've traveled all over the country and worked with lots of different people, but does somebody need to live near you to be able to work with you, or do you work with people anywhere in the world?
Absolutely. I work with anybody, and I still have quite a number of clients from Australia, in fact, who I work with on Skype. So you don't need to be near me. You know, I love meeting people in person, but it's not a barrier at all. So if somebody doesn't live near me, we can schedule in a Skype session or we can schedule in a session over the phone. That's absolutely fine.
And how does life coaching work?
Well, how it works for me, if you know, people are curious to learn more, I offer a free 30-minute consultation over the phone. So you can call me up and we can have a chat about what's going on and what you want to achieve. And then depending on what is going on and what you want to achieve, you know, I can give you a bit of a sense or an idea of how I might work with you. And then usually my sessions are an hour, and every session is different. As we talked about before, you know, I've training in a number of different areas, a number of different modalities, so everything from mainstream counseling, hypnotherapy, all the way through to energy healing work. So when somebody comes in to see me, I will listen to what they have to say, and then I also tap in quite strongly to my intuition and get a sense of what's going on for them. And then I will pull out different tools out of my tool basket, just depending on what is happening that day. And I always usually just follow the emotion and follow the energy of whatever comes up. And so every session is different from week to week, depending on what's going on for the person on that day.
And how long do people typically work with you? Is it a 6-month term, or is it really different for everyone? Or
I think, Ken, it's really different for everybody. And as I said before, you know, I see, for me, my relationship with my coach mentor really as a lifelong process. I mean, he's there to help me. So obviously when we have big stuff going on in our life and stuff does come up, then that might be a time where you might want to work more intensively with a life coach or, you know, a therapist to really give you that support to work through those hard moments and whatever's going on. And then at other times, you know, it can be useful just to check in from time to time and have that sounding board. Because, you know, when things are going good, I think that's when people think, oh, I don't need to see my coach because everything's going good. But that can often be one of the best times to see a coach because, you know, that's when you can use your coach as a sounding board and it can even further enhance the good things that are happening. So for me, I mean, it's really based on the individual, but for me and my relationship with my coach, I see that as a long-term support process, using it more intensively at times than others, but always knowing that I have him there is just a really great source of comfort to me to know that.
sure, I can see that being a great resource. So how much does life coaching cost? Is it something that's affordable for most people out there? Or?
Absolutely. And, you know, my passion is working with people, so I try and ensure that it's not cost prohibitive. So for me, as I said, I offer the free 30-minute consultation, and then the first hour is $20. And this really gives people a chance to meet me and me a chance to meet them, and we can see, you know, if we're a good fit. You know, there's lots of different coaches and therapists out there, and I think that not every therapist is going to work with, you know, I can't work with everybody, so we get a chance to see if we're a good fit. And then after that, my sessions are $75 for the hour if you just pay as you go. But I do offer discounts for people who buy groups of sessions up front, and then also for, you know, families in the military and veterans. You know, I would never want anybody not to seek help just because they thought that they couldn't afford it. So I do offer a range of different packages and options for everybody.
And how can someone reach you if they want to find out more about your services?
Good place to go is to check out my website. So that's kamajitree.com, or they can give me a call, 480-737-0359. As I said, I do the 30-minute consultation. You can email me to set that up as well. So my email address is just kate@kamajitree.com.
Great. Thank you so much for being on the show, Kate. I'm sure lots of people will get lots of valuable information out of our interview today.
Great. Thanks, Kenya. I really appreciate getting the chance to chat with you about this, and I hope that all the people listening out there, if you're not already seeing a coach or if you've been thinking about it, I really just encourage you to be brave and take that first step. That's, you know, what's really important.
Thanks for listening to Business Innovators Radio. To hear all episodes featuring leading industry influencers and trendsetters, visit us online at businessinnovatorsradio.com today.